Hey, what's going on, guys? So today I want to talk to you guys about a situation that I see happening a lot where someone either has a lot of equity in their home or they have a property that is paid off free and clear. And they're like, I want to access that equity because, as you guys know, you can't go to the grocery store and go buy bread with equity. And there's actually a concept that I always like to say that there's a lot of folks out here that are house rich but cash poor. So they have a lot of equity in their home, but they don't really have the cash to go do things. And so a lot of times people say, well, I need to sell this house. And let me give you guys an example. So I flipped a property in Easley, South Carolina, where there was an individual who essentially wanted to kind of restart their life a little bit. They had a good bit of equity in this house. And so what they knew to do which was to sell the property so that they could access that equity, convert it into cash, and then go move an apartment and kind of start their life and go buy another house, etc. Now, that is one way to do it. It's not necessarily a bad way either, but I just want to talk about how there's a lot of folks who think that that's just the only way, is I need to sell my property so I can access the equity, convert it into cash, and then go leverage it. But that is one way that you can access equity into a home, is to sell the property. If you have $100,000 on a property in terms of debt, and it's worth $200,000, and you put it on the market for $200,000, there's a good bit of equity that you can leverage because you sold the property. But what if you were interested in potentially still owning that asset, but just borrowing against the equity? So that's called a HELOC. If this is your primary residence, this is a great opportunity for you to borrow against the equity, but still keep the asset if you don't want to sell the property. Maybe you don't want to sell the property, right? But you just want to access the equity. So that's just why I want to share with you guys that there are opportunities, and some people just don't know this. It's called a HELOC, a home equity line of credit. Now, this video isn't diving into all the details of a home equity line of credit. Again, I'm not a mortgage lender or anything like that. There's plenty of videos and opportunities for you to dive in as much as you want to when it comes to HELOCs. I'm just giving you, this is something to think about, and you can kind of go do your research, but these are strategies to leverage, is you can do a HELOC. Now, a HELOC is generally going to be for your primary residence. I have heard that you can do a HELOC on an investment property, but in my experience, in my opinion, you can't do a HELOC against an investment property. It's got to be your primary residence, because typically when you go do a HELOC, you are actually working with a traditional bank, whether it's a credit union, a local bank, or whatever, to actually do a home equity line of credit. Now, you can also do what's called a HELOAN. It's a little bit different than a HELOC. The beauty about a HELOC is, let's say you're able to, obtain $80,000 of a HELOC, okay? Basically what that means is you had enough equity to where the bank was willing to give you money, basically borrow against that equity. Now, they never usually give you like 100% of whatever your equity is. So let's just say your house has $100,000 again on debt and it's worth $200,000. They're not going to just give you a $100,000 loan. They usually will give you up to 70% of that. They'll give you up to a certain percentage. So maybe you're able to take out $60,000 or $70,000 as a home equity line of credit. The beauty of a home equity line of credit. Now, again, this is a real estate investing podcast. I'm not trying to step on anyone's toes. If you use the HELOC to improve your house and kind of redo your bathroom, things like that, I don't think that's the best use of a HELOC. In terms of, obviously, if this is a real estate investing podcast, don't go get a HELOC and then just start upgrading your house. Because when you utilize a HELOC, you then now have to start paying that back. Well, if you have a mortgage on your house, now you have a HELOC loan. Guys, I'm telling you, because these are deals that I find where someone is distressed, right? Their situation, remember, there's kind of two types of distress. You have a property distress, right? Where the property has windows broken, the roof looks messed up or whatever, but there's also situational distress. Maybe someone can't pay the mortgage payment, or they can't pay two payments because, again, they have a HELOC payment, which, by the way, HELOCs, when you use them, they're variable interest rate loans. And so then they have their fixed rate standard loan on their house. And so you want to leverage the HELOC with the strategy of paying it back because it's like a line of credit. So if I take that $60,000, I go buy a flip with that. Again, I'm just using this as an example. I know there's, not that many places around the country where you can buy a house and remodel it for $60,000. But just hear me out on the example. Let's just say you were able to buy, you could do a mobile home flip, right? Buy a mobile home for $30,000 and you put, $30,000 into it. You're all in $60K, and then you flip it for $150K. Like, that happens. That definitely happens, is flipping mobile homes, and you use that with your HELOC. Well, you use the HELOC, $60,000, to buy and remodel this mobile home, and then when it's sold, you paid off that HELOC, so that HELOC is still there. That line of credit is still there, and you can reuse it. but you just turned a $60,000 line of credit, and then you just added more money to that. You just grew it essentially because you made a profit. And so I think that's really kind of the best ways to use a HELOC, is use it like a line of credit. Don't just get a HELOC on your property and then go upgrade your bathroom or something, and then now you just have an extra payment, in a nicer bathroom. I don't really think that's the best way to use it. But anyway, teach their own. But then you have what's called a HE loan. Now, a HE loan is a little bit different. It's like exactly what it sounds like. It's a loan. So when you pay off that loan, it's not like a line of credit where it's just revolving. You kind of just keep using it over and over and over. But again, I just want you guys to understand that there are ways to leverage equity in a property. Now, what if you have an investment property that is free and clear? Well, you can do a refinance, right? You can do a rate and term or cash out refinance rather than selling the property to gain access or to leverage the equity in that property. I'm actually doing that on a property that I have right now. I bought it subject to, okay, and the loan on that property is like $53,000, but it's worth today about $200,000. It's just been sitting with all this equity. Well, there's an opportunity right now where I can leverage a large chunk of cash and go use that to actually speed up an investment property that I'm working on, that I'll be able to, again, take that money back out, and a flip as well. And so I'm going to actually be doing a refinance, a rate and term refi, or a cash out refi, not rate and term, a cash out. Now, I did do a video on the difference between rate and term and cash out refi, so definitely go check that out. But I'm going to do a cash out refinance to borrow as much as I can on that to get that. And I don't mind that the interest rate is going to change and that the payment's going to change, because I'm still going to be net profitable on that. And it's just more beneficial for me to leverage this, essentially just cash sitting in a house that's not doing anything, and to go scale and buy more properties that will increase my net worth and income overall. Too many people are focused on just interest rate, but it's not about just getting the lowest interest rate you can. You have to look at the deal and the whole totality of the opportunities that you have, right? What's the cost of you maybe not refinancing and leveraging opportunities just because you want to keep this specific interest rate, right? And so anyway, that's another opportunity. If you have an investment property that has a lot of equity, think about a cash out refi. Borrow against it. Don't think about like, man, well, let me just sell this thing so I can use this money to go buy something else. You can still keep that property, just do a refinance on it, leverage that equity, and go buy more. Now, something else you can do that's really important, especially if you have a free and clear property. There's no debt on this property. It's free and clear. You can borrow against it with private money. You could put someone in a position to be a first position lien holder on a property that's free and clear. Now, let's say a property is worth, like, let's say $200,000, okay? And let's do some math here. So $200,000. Let's do 70% of that, right? So $200,000 times 0.7, that brings you to 140 grand. But what if you have a property free and clear, it's worth 200 grand, and you needed $100,000? Well, you don't have to sell that property to get it. You can actually raise private capital. Now, you can actually create a lien against the property, find someone who has $100,000, and you could make them the bank, and they can become a lien holder against this property. And so now their $100,000 is going to be a lien against this property. So that property is going to have a $100,000 mortgage attached to it, right? Now, again, but this is a short-term opportunity, right? Like, you're trying to do this in a way where you can just pay that off. But how do you leverage that equity? Well, private money. Like I said, you can have someone be a lien, create a lien against the property. They give you $100,000. Now they have a mortgage. Essentially, it's called security, right? You're securing their money to an asset. And so if they have $100,000 and you secure that $100,000 to an asset, and then now you can go leverage that and go do whatever it is that you need to do to go pay that back off. Now that property is free and clear again, but you essentially were able to secure their money. It encouraged them to want to do a deal because you had a great property. The reason why I did the 70% of the $200,000 is because their money in that deal, first position, $100,000, but then the property's worth $200,000. That's an amazing position for them. Even if worst case scenario, you had to refinance or do something, you have enough equity to be able to still cash them out and hold on to that property. Okay. And so anyway, I just want to do this video because I think, there's a lot of folks who think that, the only way to access equity in their property is they need to sell it. But there's a lot of unique ways you can use private money. And you could, even if they're in a second position, let's say you have a property that has a $50,000 mortgage, but it's worth 250 grand and you need, let's say $50,000. You can still make them a lien holder on that property. Or let's say you need $70,000. They could be a lien holder in second position. But let's do the math here, right? $70,000 plus $50,000 is $120,000. But let's just say an example, again, this property is worth, let's just say even $200,000. Well, again, even worst case scenario, the second position lien holder could buy the first position out if they wanted to keep the asset, and the first position wanted to just get out of the deal if it ended up being a foreclosure situation, or if the first position did a foreclosure and they got paid off their amount, but there's enough equity to be able to pay off the second, they still are protected. And so you just want to make sure you understand these numbers. Now, if you don't, definitely reach out to me, because I help students all across the country with underwriting properties, understanding values like this, and doing deals that require this type of creative concept and thinking. But anyway, I just wanted this video, guys, to just encourage you to understand that there are other options than just selling your property to access the equity. Again, we talked about you could sell the property to access that equity, but you could do a HELOC, which is like a line of credit. You could do a HE loan. Now, these are working with traditional banks. You could get private money and borrow against it. You could do a rate and term, or not a rate and term. You could do a cash out refi, and so that you can borrow up as much as you can, and then it's a new mortgage. Your interest rate will probably change, and your mortgage payment, but you're able to access cash to go scale and do other things. It's not a big deal, especially if it's an investment property, because you have a tenant paying down that mortgage anyway, and you cannot go buy bread with equity. So leveraging cash is a great opportunity, even if it made sense for you to refinance on a property, a cash out refi. Your mortgage payment, increased a little bit, your interest rate increased a little bit, but now that dead cash, or that cash is just sitting in the house, you can become a private money lender and lend it out at 15%. I mean, I pay all of my private money lenders 15% interest on their money. So imagine if you had $100,000. What's $100,000 times 0.15? That's $15,000 divided by 12 to get monthly interest you would earn. That's $1,250. Now, what if your payment increasing because of you taking that money out of a property? So your mortgage went up, new interest rate, and maybe now you lost, let's just say it went up and you lost $250 a month. Well, take this $1,250 and subtract $250, and it's essentially like you basically are paying $250 a month now to make $1,000 a month. Like, that makes sense. Like, if my payment went up a little bit because I took cash out of a property, okay, yeah, maybe I lose that and I'm losing $250 a month, but I'm really not, because you still have a tenant that's paying down that mortgage. So it's still like free money. You're building up equity again. But then on top of that, you are now making $1,000 a month because you're lending that out at 15% interest. Man, I'm telling you some good information, guys. So if you like this information, guys, definitely click the button, subscribe, like this, share this. But again, I have resources at the bottom to help you in your real estate business. It's a resource guide. I have a book that I created. I have a meetup here locally in South Carolina, in Greenville, in the upstate. I have a weekly call every Tuesday. It's Q&A for anyone around the country if you're not here locally. I have a mentorship. I mean, there's so many opportunities for you to be able to work with me and connect, and for me to help you in your business. But if you have questions, drop them in the comment section below. But I will see you guys in the next video, and thank you for watching.